Right now, we're gonna nature journal mushrooms. Yeah!
We started the season lying on our stomachs and nature journaling mushrooms. Since then, a lot has changed about the Nature Journal show, but some things have remained the same. The mission of the show is still all about helping you get the most out of your nature journaling through advanced techniques, reviewing supplies, taking you on nature journaling adventures, and my vision is that nature journaling can help make the world a better place by saving biodiversity and helping you see more in nature. Stay to the end to learn what was my most hated video from Season 4 and to see what I'm going to do in Season 5. A lot of people are going to disagree with me about this, but I'm going to say, in addition to controversial videos, we also had lots of funny moments.
I got my shirt. Ow, 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 ow. Ow.
I even tried making some of my own background music this year. La 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 la. If you want to hear better music on the Nature Journal show, support me on Patreon. Right now, I'm going to show you how to procrastinate nature journaling. Step number 1, drive around in circles looking for a nature journaling spot. Step number 2, spend 10 minutes adjusting your wardrobe and making sure your hat matches with your outfit. Step number 3, use a backpack and put all your nature journaling supplies in it so they're really hard to access. Step number 4, reward yourself with pastries before you even do any nature journaling. Blueberry muffin. Oh, don't forget your chocolate. I already ate most of mine. Don't touch mushrooms and eat chocolate at the same time, probably. In addition to pro tips and promoting chocolate, the Nature Journal show also takes you on vicarious nature journaling adventures. Ooh. Ah. We scrambled over rocks on tropical islands. We crawled through thick undergrowth to hidden streams. We ate random berries. Just kidding, I knew at least what family it was in. In exchange for some science illustrations, workshops, and videos, I was able to stay at a reforestation project in Panama and also visit a nearby Coiba Island, where I was able to make a video about 5 nature journaling supplies that I would take to a tropical island. Earlier in the year, we also went and nature journaled these rare succulents in Baja California. This season, we definitely took nature journaling to places it has never been before.
Right now, I'm gonna show you how to nature journal in the hot springs. Papayacta, Ecuador.
Season 4 of the Nature Journal show was also packed with lots of pro tips on how to do watercolor landscapes in the field, starting off with this redemption landscape in Northern California. I finally had a second chance at this amazing view, took you along and shared lots of great tips. Next, I'm going to draw my thumbnails showing different possible views and crops. Remember, these thumbnails are your chance to do visual problem solving and figure out which landscape would look the best and how to crop it. We also had some good practice painting landscapes and feeding the blood-sucking flies on these mountains in Baja California. Now I'm going back in and I'm going to add a couple different greens, but don't worry too much about different types of colors. Worry more about getting the values right. So you see, I tried to make those trees darker in the foreground, and I'm going in and I'm trying to put in some darker values. That is actually a lot more important than color. Do you ever wish there was an undo button in painting? I wish I could take back this color because I think it is close to what I see in real life, but it doesn't match the values. Look at how dark that foreground is, and there's not as much warmth or as much saturation. This is a really common thing, and I think the best way to deal with this is to do thumbnail sketches where you focus just on the values and not on the colors. Colors can be really distracting to the human brain. This season, I did over 15 interviews with nature journalists such as Evea, Miriam, and Kate Rudder, who have been on the show before and who are also Patreon members. I also interviewed new people such as Jean McKay, some of my biggest interviews with the most famous people I've interviewed so far, such as Nishant, Rosemary, and Fernando Gomez Baptista.
All of these mushrooms I found in the last week in my backyard.
Whoa.
So it was pretty awesome. And then I found some more. Page is sort of beach stuff that, again, like I like to go out and see what's happening on the beach, collect things that way, and then build a page around what I find. This kind of technique works well when it's like small stuff, which I often do because, I might have limited time.
If you've been watching the show for a while, your favorite is probably the lightning round.
If you were going to be stuck on a deserted island, with lots of amazing tide pools and plants, and all your survival needs were going to be like taken care of. There's like boxes of canned food and can openers and water and whatnot, but you could only bring 5 art supplies. What 5 art supplies would you bring to the deserted island?
5 is a lot.
Okay.
Okay, Marley, 5 is like what I always bring, so I don't even need to be deserted at all. I wish I had my supplies right in front of me because I'd show you. I would bring my sketchbook as one, a micron pen, maybe 2 microns because then I could have a brown sepia and a black, or a 005 and an 02, which are my go-to pens. And then I suppose a small set of watercolors.
Okay.
Is number 3. Number 4 is a small container for water. And I would bring a size number 8 travel brush.
In addition to those 15 interviews, including many of the Wild Wonder instructors, I also provided daily coverage during the Wild Wonder event, giving you lots of tips. There were also 30 other live shows this season. Hopefully you tuned into some, and we got to interact on them. Live shows and video premieres both have a very fun chat feature, so you can join the conversation and ask me questions in real time. This year on the Nature Journal show, I tried to make more videos asking hard questions and telling sad stories. Today could very well be the last day that I paint this tree, and maybe the last day that anybody paints this tree. And if I come back here in a couple months and this tree is cut down, I'm definitely going to cry. Everybody always says that nature journaling leads to conservation, but this year I tried to make more videos actually directly working on conservation issues or talking about endangered species or endangered organisms. These videos didn't always get the most views, but at least being out there, I tried. One such video that didn't get very many views, but I am proud of, is the video about captive birds and this particular toucan whose wings are growing back so he can fly free again. If you believe in my vision and want to help me make videos like this that are more impactful and more focused on conservation issues that matter, support me on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can help me make videos like this, because these aren't the ones that always perform as well on YouTube.
I don't know if you can see this right now, but right where those 2 rocks constrict the flow of water, there are 2 coho salmon spawning an endangered species.
Every time you're out there nature journaling, you can have an impact and be an ambassador, such as when these kids saw me nature journaling spawning salmon.
This color
I want to stay here and watch that guy come.
you have to help me come up with like good questions or things to put in here, because you got to pay attention while you're watching such a cool and rare event, you know?
Sometimes the nature journaler becomes the main attraction and the nature event becomes less interesting. So that's your opportunity to direct people's attention to what you're observing. Here I'm going to use a little wet on wet to try to capture the colors of this salmon.
Let me know what you see up there.
Say thank you.
Yeah, notice something up there and let me know what you saw.
You never know how a small interaction with kids will affect them, so be a good role model out there. And if this salmon spawning video was one of my least watched videos from season 4, guess which video was one of my most watched? But just before I finally gave up, I realized that the important thing about this video wasn't to make a perfect video about phenology wheels. The most important thing was to force myself to learn something new and to share ideas about it with you and help your learning and advance your nature journaling, because that is the main intention behind the Nature Journal show. One way that I work towards that intention is by reviewing nature journaling supplies, art supplies, and helping make sure you know what you're getting into. I test these supplies in challenging conditions. I use them every day, and I make videos about their design, how functional they are, the pros, the cons, how much they cost, and all of that to help you save money and get the best supplies you can, instead of wasting a lot of time and money shopping for the right supplies, because it can take a long time and it can be very confusing. Right now, I'm going to show you how I'm using this small watercolor palette and testing it against my regular watercolor palette. This was probably the best video about supplies that I made all season.
If all your survival needs were taken care of, what are the 5 art supplies or nature journaling supplies that you would take? Post in the comments down below what 5 things you would take. But right now, I'm about to show you the 5 things that I took with me. Item number 1 for me is actually going to be my nature journal bag. Having a bag that holds all your stuff together in an organized way, but still allows you to scramble on rocks, is going to be really helpful on that tropical island. So I really like a shoulder bag. This is one by Patagonia. It's discontinued, unfortunately, and has a perfect size for my item number 2, which I'll tell you about in a second.
After my shoulder bag for carrying my supplies, my sketchbook is my number 1 thing I'd bring to a tropical island. I use the Stillman & Byrne Alpha Series 9 by 12 inch spiral bound sketchbook. It has 150 GSM paper, 50 pages worth, and I like it for a variety of reasons. It works great for nature journaling sitting down, but because of the hardcover and the spiral bound, it also works great for nature journaling standing up. So that means that on a tropical island, I can walk around and sketch while standing. You can see that even though it's 150 GSM and a medium grain surface, it works fine for some pretty serious watercolor, but it also works great for note-taking, drawing, botanical type illustrations. Paper is not so heavy that you're afraid to use it, but it's heavy enough to hold up to some pretty decent watercolor. So I think that's the perfect balance. That would work great for me on a tropical island. That medium grain surface is a good balance. Because it's spiral bound, it makes it easier for it to fold out completely open, which helps when nature journaling standing up, and it just helps you in the field quite a bit. Those are some of the things that make this my number 2 choice of nature journaling supply to always have with me. This season, in addition to talking about the John Muir Laws watercolor palette, which is very expensive, I also reviewed this Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolor palette. For a watercolor palette that costs little more than $20, I think this palette is actually pretty good. The colors aren't the best quality, and there are some annoying things about the palette, but it would work in the field and it would work in the studio. I used it entirely for a whole watercolor mixing and matching class on Skillshare. You can find the link in the description. And I think overall it works pretty good considering it's 4 times cheaper than my normal watercolor palette from John Muir Laws. I probably should have mentioned there's one really bad thing about this. I spent time testing supplies in the field so that you know what really works. Every season I try to keep you up to date with the new art supplies because they're always changing. This year I tested new pens. I also reported on the unfortunate changes with Stillman and Burn quality and keeping you up to date with what supplies are best, what supplies are being discontinued, and what supplies are worsening in quality.
For the most part, if I had to only choose one, I would choose one of the smaller ones because you can do everything that that one can do, but you can also do this really fine stuff. So that's all 3 of the zebra pins that are black.
And of course, this season was also full of the usual motivational rants for me to help you get more out of your nature journaling.
So there are a lot of things about these succulents that are going to make them really hard to draw, but we're going to try to nature journal them anyways because nature journaling is not just about making pretty botanical illustrations of things that we know we can draw easily and well and then putting their scientific name underneath them. Nature journaling is about observing things in situ, observing things in a way that we can directly observe them, ask questions about them, and make unique observations instead of just relying on photos from other people and information from other people. So we're gonna go ahead and nature journal these right now.
It's 5 a.m. here in the rainforest at the Science Field Station in Panama, and I'm almost done editing this video that is the finale, the wrap-up of Season 4 of the Nature Journal Show. Everyone else is still asleep. I'm almost done editing the video. It's very exciting, and guess what? Season 5 of the Nature Journal Show is going to be very exciting as well. It could be the last year of the Nature Journal Show, so stay tuned. This page will give you a hint about one of the big projects I'm going to be working on in the next season of the Nature Journal Show. I'm so excited. Speaking of excitement, I was so grateful and excited to witness and nature journal these spawning endangered salmon at the beginning of 2024. 2025 looks like it's going to be exciting as well, especially on Patreon, where there are monthly study sessions, early access to videos, access to the traveling journal, and $300 off my international nature journaling trips. I'm so glad you're on this journey with me. Let's go. Season 5, here we come. Bye.